For centuries, we've been told what is pure and what is sinful, what is allowed and what is forbidden. Somewhere along the way, we severed the human from the divine. We silenced intuition, shamed the sacred, and buried ancient wisdom. But here, we remember. Welcome to the Forbidden Fruit Podcast, an exploration of the mystical, the intuitive, the cosmic forces that weave our existence. This is a soulful sanctuary where we embrace the strange and unusual and use it as fuel to reclaim the magic, restore the sacred, and discover ultimate truth. Come and share your stories in a space where fierce hearts and fantastical gifts are not only welcomed, but needed. So take a bite. You were never meant to be forbidden. Welcome to the Forbidden Fruit Podcast. Welcome, Catherine.
Yeah, thank you.
So excited to connect with you again, as always.
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting with our list of ideas and all the things that have been coming up, and I just want to get your input. I keep getting the image of sharing some stories again, and one of the theme being around those sacred soul connections, and the theme being spiritual persecution. I want to go into that paradigm of, it's a paradigm in the collective, especially with the feminine, where women, and I'm speaking generally, have this fear of tapping into their intuition and connecting with spirit, because either in this lifetime or other experiences, other lifetimes, they've had the experience of maybe being burned as a witch or being cast out of the tribe or different things, because they might have access to knowledge or healing abilities or prophetic dreams, whatever it might be. They have knowledge that others don't. And then whatever environment they're in, it creates a lot of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I was tuning into what we should talk about, I was getting the image of some things that have happened in my life, with the theme of spiritual persecution. And I'm a little nervous to share some of these stories. And so I know that's probably exactly where we need to go.
Oh, yes.
Because I feel some resistance there. And
That's how you know.
yeah. And I just feel like, that's the core of everything that we're talking about here. We're giving people tools, techniques, and examples from our own personal experience about how to just shine your light, how to
Mm-hmm.
choose to evolve your consciousness and choose to be yourself, no matter what, how to be the eye in the hurricane, how to shine your light in those dark places, and to not be afraid. So I'd love to kind of dive down that rabbit hole today. How does that feel for you?
That sounds beautiful.
Okay. So as I'm sharing some of this, what's coming up for you around shine your light, spiritual persecution? What stories do you have that you'd like to share?
I find that people have, like, everyone has their own story and their own experiences that they've had where they feel this call to make a change, this call to speak up or to step into who they really are. But they have this fear of, if they do that, what happens if they take that step? So it's so easy to let your ego take over and stay in your comfort zone, where if and that's great. Anyone can do that. That's fine. But it's where you have that moment where you step out of your comfort zone, even just a little bit. You can leap too, but even just a little bit, you take that step, and then you have that willingness to try something new, to change, to move forward. And once you do that, you're crossing a threshold, because there is no growing back. Because whatever happens in your life is what you're meant to do. It's where you're meant to be in that moment, however that shows up for you. And that's your opportunity for growth, for change, to become more. And it's so hard when you feel alone and when you don't think anyone else is experiencing this. And the funny thing is we all are. on some level, in some way. Different details, different ways it shows up in our life. But oftentimes people don't make that change and they don't have the courage to step up and to be who they are meant to be, even as small or as big as that is. They don't take that step and then they have regrets. And I'm just offering an opportunity for everyone to say, I can do it. I can take that step, that one baby step to move forward. Because as soon as you do that, you've crossed that threshold and all kinds of doors and windows will open up for you in unique and beautiful ways. And it's just an opportunity. And you get to write the story. You get to be the creator in your life that shows you who you're meant to be. But you have to take that step. You have to be willing to move forward, willing to be brave, to be the heroine or the hero in your life, if you're willing to take the step.
Yeah. So we're basically going to be an example for anyone that listens and hears these messages that you're not alone, is what I'm hearing. We're going to let them know, hey,
Mm-hmm.
you're not alone. We're doing it too. And also, everything that we're sharing is built on the foundation of consciousness that every single experience is valid and valuable, no matter what a contrast it might be to others or other situations. And there was a download that's come in recently. Well, it's been over the last couple of months, but recently it really like came into my cells. And it's this awareness that I am the universe is me, and everything that I'm experiencing, it's just that. I just get to be. And it gets crunchy when we go into the space of judgment or thinking that something is right or wrong, good or bad. And I know we've talked about this some in other podcasts, but this really hit home for me just in the last few days, like this huge wave of understanding my world, my universe is me. And being in that is so beautiful. And there's a lot of joy. And I had this experience in meditation where I was getting this image of the vision of the universe, like the cosmos and planets birthing and stars and all these things. And then also this incredible vista where I'm standing on the edge of a cliff and I'm looking out and I'm seeing these incredible mountains and waterfalls and oceans in the distance and forests and all these people and animals and plants just dancing together, singing together, living and thriving together, because every single aspect of that creation was just being itself. And it felt so peaceful. It was the ultimate expression of freedom. There was no attachment to what anything needed to be or not be. There was nothing to fix, nothing broken, right? And I know as humans, especially when we're in a holistic wellness field or we're on what we would call a spiritual path, there's these paradigms around, oh, I've got to heal. I've got to fix these things that feel fragmented or broken. And all we're really trying to do is remember our true essence, the essence of the universe that is us, that's seeking to express itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And so I've been really sitting with that energy. I am the universe is me. And isn't it beautiful? And so as I was in that place of being, my mind starts coming up with all these different things that have happened in the past, all these things that I might be concerned are going to happen in the future based on how I choose to show up and experience the universe of me.
And seeing all those different possibilities of what could happen, what could be not in your space anymore, what you have gone and resolved in your field, because everyone has done so much work, whether or not you realize it, whether or not you even acknowledge that you've done the work. Coming from that place of everything that has happened in your life, everything you've experienced, thought, believed to be true, think that's coming, wherever you've been has brought you to this moment. And each and every single moment is a choice point of where do you go from here. It gives you that opportunity to be the creator in your life, to decide, do I want it mild? Do I want it medium? Do I want it spicy? How hot do I want it to be? And, that's just one way of looking. How far outside of my comfort zone am I willing to be, to grow, to play, and to experience so that I can call that into my space, and then my comfort zone expands because you realize that your biggest fears might actually be your best opportunities.
Yeah, totally. I feel like I'm trying to get back in my comfort zone. There's like, there's the me that exists before all of the stories, all of the experiences, all of the things that have caused pain or anger or fear. There's the me, that essence of creation that is untouched by all of that. And as I settle into that space, that's where I feel comfortable. That's where I feel fully alive and able to express. And it gets uncomfortable when there's something in me or outside of me that's saying, no, no, you shouldn't do that. No, no, you can't be that. So that's the paradigm I'm playing with today.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to share an example of being your essence when you really truly feel that most expansive and most comfortable in your own skin? Like, do you have anything like that?
It used to be that when it would be so easy for me to stay home, to hide, to just be in my own space. But what I've come to realize is that when I do that, while I do feel comfortable and I do feel connected and expansive, what I'm also doing is shutting out these opportunities to be more and to expand my field. And that's okay too, but that's kind of the mild route. And for me, I love to just dive in and to try because once you try, it's so interesting how that comfort zone expands and that you can actually stay in your comfort zone while still growing.
I'm laughing because I love that we are always showing like two sides of the same coin.
Mhm.
It's like you're looking at it over here, I'm looking at it over here, and then we come to the center. I just love it. Mm. So I was thinking about that. Like, when have I really felt fully me? And one of the times that I can remember, and I go into more detail in this in the book I'm writing. So I I'm like, how do I say this in a way that gives the information but doesn't sound like a novel, right?
That's totally you.
I know. I'm such a wordsmith, right? But I had this experience when I was 16 where things were not good at home with my mom. We just butt heads, like, not in a healthy way. And I decided to go move in with my dad for a year. And my parents were divorced. They've been divorced since I was 3 or 4 years old. And so I went to live with my dad for a year to get myself a different experience than what I'd had at home. And my mom was so upset. She didn't even talk to me for 6 months. She felt like I abandoned her. I betrayed her because I went to go live with my dad, and her and my dad, you know, they're not on good terms and they haven't been for my entire life. And so there was this energy where I felt rejected and abandoned. And yet it was the only path in that moment. Like, I could no longer stay in the place where I was so uncomfortable and I was not feeling that I could express myself fully. And I was in those formative years, 16, all kinds of hormones and puberty and all the things happening. and seeking my identity, right? That's what happens when we're in those stages of life. And so I moved in with my dad and I got my first job. I actually got two jobs. And I started getting really physically active instead of having to drive everywhere because we live so far from everything. When I moved in with my dad, I got the opportunity to walk everywhere. Like I had to walk 3 miles pretty much every day to go to school, to go to work, to go home. I walked or rollerbladed. And then I started taking Taekwondo and I started getting my body like in the best shape, like really strong and resilient. And I have a mild cerebral palsy. So to work my body at a physical level was a huge thing for me. And through about 6 months of being really physically active and just letting that be part of my everyday life, it was like the cerebral palsy no longer existed. It's like my body was so strong and balanced. And during this time of major physical transformation and emotional transformation around these paradigms of mom and dad and who am I also got to have the experience of my first relationship. Now, this relationship was not a normal relationship. I don't think I have those, but this was my first so-called boyfriend. And it was one of those moments where we just knew each other. Like we never met, never really talked, and yet we just knew each other and we were very comfortable around each other. And over a period of just becoming friends and getting to know each other a bit, one night we were on the phone and I didn't know what I was doing because I was 16 and had no idea. But I took us into a meditative state and I started describing this incredible scene out in the universe. And I saw myself and I saw him as these sparks of light. And we were traveling around each other, circling around each other. We were merging with each other and then coming out of each other. And we were literally creating worlds. Every time we would connect, it was like this burst of light and like a star would happen or a planet would happen. Like this was the vision that I was receiving. And I could feel it through every cell of my body. I could feel it through all of my energy bodies. It was such an incredible experience. And during this meditation, all I could feel was complete, total love. And as we came out of that, all I could think was, oh my gosh, I love, I love. And then my human brain turned that into, I must love you. And he had the same. And so we're in this current of like divine cosmic love. And then we have these human avatars, and we have no frame of reference for any of this. Neither one of us had ever been in a relationship. Neither one of us had ever been shown even a healthy dynamic in the 3D human landscape of like, what does a relationship look like? What are the roles we play? What are the expectations? What are the boundaries? All those things, they didn't make any sense. And so we had this experience that was like life-changing, super transformative. And it was funny because even when we were having the experience up in the cosmos, I would say something and then he would say the same thing or he would finish my sentence. It was like he was having a shared vision with me at the same time. It wasn't something that I was making up and telling him. It was something that we were sharing with each other beyond ourselves. And that was the first time I'd had an experience like that with another person. Now, I'd already been meditating on my own since I was probably 7 or 8 years old, not knowing that's what meditation was. But I would go into altered states. I would do all these things as a kid, and I would read all kinds of books. But I didn't know you could have that experience with someone else, right? And share it like
Mhm.
telepathically. And it felt like our hearts were just blown open. There were no lies, there were no masks, there was nothing but this pure essence. And I remember feeling so alive, so real and true, and the most authentic me that I'd ever felt. And I'll share how that all ended in a little bit. But I just want to share that first part and kind of get your perspective. What do you think?
Well, it's so interesting when you don't. It's funny because when I was little, I didn't really have a lot of friends. And so I would spend a whole lot of time in my room by myself, which I think actually has helped me so much in my life because, you think you grow up, you have lots of friends, you kind of decide what the world's like and how it works. And when you don't have that frame of mind and you don't have those real literal experiences, it doesn't condition you to certain beliefs and certain understandings of how the world is supposed to be. And instead, I read books, I communicated with my guides, I had whole conversations, and we talked about life and what life was like. And it was not what regular kids did by any means. And so it's funny because it's such a similar idea of what you're saying, how your experience with a relationship was so different and so unique, and trying to explain that to someone who hasn't had those experiences, there's just no way. And so when I communicate with others now as an adult, it's been interesting because I tend to just want to talk about the deep. I don't want to talk about the fluff, you know, those conversations like, how's the weather? I could care less. How's your day? Oh, it's always good. No one really asks those deep, deep questions. And I could never figure out why. It made it feel like, are they even real? Are those individuals, do they have those ideas? Do they have those thought processes that there's so much more to this world than just, oh, how was your weekend? And, you've got to talk about some amazing experience you had and it was the best ever, right? Every single time. And what if it wasn't? Can you talk to people about those things? Can you be real with someone? And I found most often they don't want to hear it. They don't want to think. They just want to hear some amazing story and say, that's so great. Or they don't even ask you how you are. They just want to talk about their experiences in their life, which is always the best. It's always pristine. It's always whatever is amazing. And it's so interesting now seeing as social media has come up and how it's the same thing. All you ever see on Facebook or Instagram or whatever platform, it doesn't matter. There's always a new one. And all you see is someone's best face. You don't see the real part of them, all the suffering, the difficult experiences, how they view themselves, the feelings and the thoughts behind all that. Did it take to get that person to where they are in that moment? And what are they not saying? And it's funny. I always look when I see people posting things and like, where's the mess in the background? Because you're only showing this little segment of this amazing photo of how great you look. That's not real. Show me your real life. Show me what it's like and how hard it is to manage your family and manage your life and try to pay bills and live and grow and be human because that's real. It's not this spectacular, fantastic smoochy picture you're taking of yourself. It's the real behind that. And what you're describing, I love it. That experience that you're having or had of going through and creating something so beautiful, and yet you're not allowed to talk about it because you would be viewed as and judged as crazy or not acceptable or too out there to even have someone acknowledge it. You would be shunned. And to me, it's like that's where the magic lies. That's real. That's the real life and the things that you need to share. Not how's the weather. I don't care what kind of great car you have or, how amazing your kids are and how many sports they're in. And, whatever. They're going to Yale, they're doing this. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. And we put so much emphasis on how can we one up someone and how can we show how we're great? We're putting our value in those meaningless things. Now, I'm not saying you can't have cool things and you can't be that, but just be real with it. And why can't we go and just accept people for who they really are? Because when people ask me, like, oh, how are you? I want to tell them, I don't want to say, oh, good. I want to tell them, I had a really hard day. My kid was freaking out. It was tough. I really just wanted to shut down and hide, but I showed up. Now try saying that to someone because they're not going to take it well. Believe me, I've tried it.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. You can always come to me. Just so you know.
Oh, I know you. But
I
regular,
feel the same. Yeah, the regular paradigms that we're in all the time. And it comes from a place of fear because I think people really do want to be real and they want to be authentic, but they're afraid to because there's so much masking that happens just in our everyday lives. And so we're disconnected from that true essence. We're disconnected from our true humanity and our full human potential, right? To actually not only be able to pay bills, do the dishes, and take care of our children, but to also go into these otherworldly places and have these incredible experiences that we can then bring into the day to day and infuse it with that place of gratitude because all of it is real, all of it is valid. And at the same time, it's all a dream. So, we can go into all
uh-huh.
kinds of rabbit holes there, which we will. But it's interesting because that experience that I had, it was this catalyst for, I guess, one of my moments of awakening, right? We talked a lot about awakening and the process of ascension in a previous episode. And this is a perfect example of that. Like, I went through this dark night. I couldn't stay where I was. It got really, really uncomfortable. I had to leave to experience something else. And then I started to come home to myself. And then I have this really amazing experience of like, oh my gosh, all of these things I've been feeling my whole life, all these things I'm reading about in books, these connections that I have with beings that other people can't see, these colors around people's bodies that other people don't know are there. Like, wait a minute, this is actually happening. I'm on the phone with another person having a shared experience, and that was totally real. And so we had that, and it was so beautiful. And it also was like something that not anyone else around us in our friend circle or our parents or our teachers, no one else would understand it. And we were in this like bubble of like bliss for a few months. And then there started to come the cracks. And the cracks started because other people started inserting their own opinions and judgments based on their own fear. They started saying things like, hey, like to him, they started saying things like, hey, uh, you shouldn't talk to her. She's messing with your mind. She's getting in your head. She's hypnotizing you. She's evil. And I'm like, wait, what? Because this is just this incredible love energy that we're just sharing. I mean, we could we could be together for 6 hours and it would feel like 20 minutes. Even when we weren't together physically, just walking by the park, right? I would feel that energy with me all the time. I could feel these conversations we were having in our heart space. We could sit on the phone and not say a word all night long, neither one of us really sleeping. Probably not good for our grades at that point, but hey, we were in a bubble. And I remember so many of my intuitive gifts were coming back online during that period of time when I was in that space of feeling more myself than I ever had. And I could see these colors in the trees. I could hear the trees whispering. I could feel this pulse, sense this kind of music that was flowing through everything around me. And I could feel my body in a completely different way. And oh, I got introduced to Tai Chi during this period of time as well. And so I got certified in the first couple of levels of Tai Chi. And I learned about energy bubbles and energy strands and the energy that connects all living things. So I got to study about that, and it made sense because that's the experience that I was living, right? And so I'm
Mhm.
getting these massive expansions, right? And at the same time, these cracks and this resistance started to come in from all these places in the external. And and then when my great grandma passed away, I went into such a deep depression and didn't know how to process that grief. It felt like my grandma was like a second mom to me. And I didn't know how to process that at 16, 17 years old. I was 16 still, I think. And that connection that I had with that other person that was so full of love and so pure, well, everything that we felt got amplified exponentially whenever we were connecting, which we were always connected at that point. And so what happened was my grief started to push him away, was my understanding. And looking back, I understand more what happened during it. I had no idea what was happening. I just felt all this grief and I just wanted to go get a hug. And next thing I know, he's like walking away from me and he won't, hold my hand and he's muttering about me with his friends. And it just was so different. I mean, than what we'd had before that. Um, and it went from being so fully connected to all of a sudden feeling like my heart was walking around outside my body instead of being in this huge, massive, expanded place. And looking back, I realized that he also had grief from his childhood. His father had passed away when he was 9, and so very young, and he had never been able to really process that. And so my grief came in, and I believe that it triggered something in his system with his buried grief. And so his grief started to come up to the surface. He didn't want to look at it or didn't know. Neither one of us knew that's what was happening. And so it was shut it down. This is wrong. This is bad. It doesn't feel good. Right. I only want to feel the bliss and the ecstasy. I don't want to feel the pain and the suffering. And so he started to listen to those other people. And then one night we were on the phone again. And I said, do you just need some time? Do you just need some space? Like, hang out with your friends. I know we spend a lot of time together. Like, it's okay. And he took that as we're breaking up. I didn't mean it that way. I was just trying to have a healthy relationship, but I didn't know what that looked like, you know?
Mhm.
And I could feel it. I felt this breaking between us. And I felt like my soul was breaking into pieces. And at the time, I just thought that's what everyone felt when they had heartbreak. I thought that everyone had that level of love, that level of feeling completely merged with another person. And like you can literally birth universes when you're together. And like I thought everybody had that. I have since learned that is not the case. And so when we broke up, um, I got to stay home from school for one day. My my stepmom said, "Yeah, you can stay home for one day," because I was a wreck. Like I could barely remember how to breathe. And I spent that whole day talking to another friend of mine from my other high school from before I had moved and trying to like not run to the guy that we had just broken up. Like I kept wanting to go to his house. I kept wanting to be with him and like make it right. I had this feeling like if I could just go to him, it would be okay. If we could just talk, if we could just see each other, it would be okay. And my friend literally held me like on a park bench, would not let me go. He's like, "Nope, this is a breakup. You need to let it go." And I still to this day wonder what would have happened had I listened to that pull, to that guidance. Um, but he ended up not coming to school for 2 weeks. And we worked at the same place. He didn't come into work for a week. And then when he did finally return into my sphere of I could see him as a person, that he was alive and somewhat functional, he had shaved his head till it was really short. He had dyed it a different color. He was wearing different clothing. His voice had changed. And when I looked at him, that there originally, when we were first connecting and in that bubble together, there was this white flame in his eyes. And I literally felt like it was God looking at me. And I can't describe it fully. It's ineffable. But there was this light, this spark, and we shared it. And when I saw him after the breakup, it was gone. It was like something had snuffed out that light. And I felt it through my whole body, like viscerally, like something is really weird. Something is not right. And I had no one I could talk to about it. I tried to tell a couple of people that something just didn't seem normal. And they just were like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. It's just a breakup. And then I tried to continue pouring love into our circle of friends. It was mostly his friend group, and I kind of got into it because of him. So I really had made no friends during this period because I was like really busy and having fun with him. And so lesson learned there too. Never attach all of your energy to a guy. That's something I needed to learn apparently. And
Especially as a
as
teenager.
a teenager, yeah.
Yeah.
And so Um, I just thought I was crazy. And so I just tried to be very loving. And I remember the breakup had happened like in January, 2 weeks after my grandmother had passed, like the end of January. And then in February, it was like Valentine's Day. And so I decided, because I am a loving being and I felt all this resistance in the friend group and all this weird energy. We were like still trying to be friends and be around each other, but it was like really, really uncomfortable.
That is a tough
And
thing to do. Yep.
yeah. And so I decided to write everyone a poem about how I saw them, how I saw their soul, how I saw their hearts. And there was a group of like 6 people and 3 guys, 3 girls, and me. And so I wrote everyone this poem for Valentine's Day and I gave it to them. And that's it. Like I just walked away and I kind of went to eat lunch by myself. And then I watched them as they received their poems, and I could feel the energy was very chaotic and very like stabbing at me, like psychic attack, like angry. And I was like, what the heck? Right. I really just poured my love into this, trying to resolve the resistance that was there. And so a couple days later, I went to them and I said, hey, I don't know what's going on. Can we please have a clearing conversation? I didn't know what clearing conversations were at 16, but I knew that I wanted to clear the energy.
Hmm.
And so I said, can we please talk about this? I don't know what's going on. I'm feeling all this anger and hate and chaos and it just needs to stop. Like I'm being very pure and loving here. What the heck? And so I remember this. We were in a parking lot. It was around 11 o'clock at night. And I wrote it in my journal later as the confrontation. And they basically felt like I was confronting them. So I was being confrontational because I didn't want to let this keep going. And I had just asked, like, tell me what you really need to say here. And so one by one, they took turns telling me all these horrible things about myself, all these things they saw in me, how I was somehow manipulative of their friend, making him think he was in love with me, making him obsessed with me. He couldn't get me out of his head. And I kept trying to get back together with him, which I never did. Right. They created all these really interesting stories. There was another girl that was trying to date him while we were still together, and she had been inserting these little things like,
Hmm.
hey, I wear no clothes and I have big boobies and blonde hair and hey, and lots of makeup and my parents have money and hey, like that kind of thing. And I was like, what is happening? And I honestly think it came from a place of jealousy. I think the two friends actually had crushes on me and didn't know what to do about it, didn't want their friend dating me because they liked me and also because it took him away from them. They didn't like that. But instead of just saying that, it became how I was the devil. And I felt I had this spiritual persecution right? Because I had shared really vulnerable things with him about my intuition, and the experiences we had shared were very supernatural and to me sacred. Like I hadn't told anyone those things. So I don't know what he had said to them, but it probably made the whole thing sound like craziness because it wasn't normal. And so they all took turns saying their piece, and I felt gutted. I was like, okay, well, thank you for telling me how you really feel. Please take me home. And that was that. And then I was no longer a part of that friend group. Like it was done. Um, and I felt just devastated, like on every level of my being. And oh, and they had made comments about my poetry as well. He had made the guy that I dated, he'd made comments to them about how I was trying to get back together with him by writing him this love poem. And then they're like, well, wait, she wrote us poems too. And then he's like, oh, wait, what? Like all this confusion, right? Because the stories they
Mm.
created were not true. And even when they were shown evidence to the contrary, they didn't know how to make sense of any of it. And so, yeah, I went through this experience of massive contrast, beautiful, blissful, ecstatic highs, and then really deep, dark night of the soul. Like, who am I? Why am I here? What's the point of any of this? At a young age. And that was a really rough time in my life. And then after that school year ended, I decided to move back in with my mom because I simply couldn't stay in that space. There was there were some other things going on with my brother and I could not live in the same house either. So my brother was with my dad. And so I decided to go back with my mom and try to repair that relationship and try to come back into some sense of who I was as a human being, just walking around. But it was very much in my face, that place of fear that others have if I shine my light, if I share love from my heart. And I've had that very similar experience happen many times in my life. So it's some kind of fun little pattern or karmic loop that I am no longer carrying forward. um, and so, yeah, that's that's my story.
It's so interesting how you share that because, I mean, all of what you're describing is the hero's journey. This process of you have this experience that creates this new awareness, this new understanding of the world, of the possibilities that you're experiencing, and you have those choices. And you chose to embrace that and to move forward with that. And all of these different opportunities for growth, you were choosing to move forward, and he came from that place of fear because he didn't understand it. And seeing how you went through all of this and you put forth your best version of who you are, and nobody understood, and feeling that everybody came from their perspective of, we don't understand this, so we're going to be afraid and reject it. And how empowering that is for you to say, yeah, actually, this was real, this happened, and not fall into that. I remember going through, I had countless experiences of during my 10 years of being married to my first husband that were amazing, that were miraculous, that I could describe to you very similar things. But instead of repeating all that right now, because I think you kind of summed it up really, really well in your description of your experience. Um, Going through the process of the rejection of experiencing the divorce that I had, and it took me years to recover from that because I wasn't able to step up and say, actually, this was real, and step into my power and say, this is who I was. And you can have your interpretation, which, that's what my ex did and probably still does. I don't know. But that experience was an opportunity for me that took me many years to fully understand and to accept. I still have opportunities that come up periodically, like echoes almost, to remember, oh yeah, I did experience that. I don't need to do it again. Because now I see, after going through so many years and so many opportunities of healing and reclaiming my power, reclaiming what I knew from that opportunity of being told in every moment I was wrong and everything I experienced was a lie. And how could I just be positive through it all? And going through and reclaiming the pieces of myself and picking that back up and recreating who I was and knowing who I was. Now seeing it on the other side, I realize it was such an opportunity to go through each and every one of those was another layer of a dark night of the soul, an opportunity to grow and to say, actually, I know who I am. You can say whatever you want to say, but I know who I am. And that's, I think, the beautiful little nugget inside each of these different experiences that everyone has. It's not just you and me. Everyone has these opportunities to go and say, do we believe what everyone is telling us? Do we believe that somehow we're wrong or we're horrible or we couldn't possibly, we've made it all up? We've inserted our beliefs into other people? Or we can say, this is our truth. And we choose to speak up because we choose to speak who we are and to step into that and allowing anyone else their own judgment and their own choices. And that's okay. That takes so much courage and confidence that for me took experience to experience the opposite, that darkness, that heaviness, to be able to actually remember who I was. And now I can honestly say that I am thankful for the hell that I experienced for so many years because it wasn't happening to me. It was happening for me. And I scripted this for myself so that could become who I am now. And so that I could set the stage for the opportunities that are coming, for the person that I choose to be. So instead of looking back and saying, oh my God, that was horrible, which I wouldn't wish on anyone, don't get me wrong, but to be able to say, thank you. Look who I've become because of that experience and that opportunity. And just wait to see what I can do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have had the echo situation as well multiple times. And I've had even more intense experiences with the same theme. And in that time when I was younger, it mostly affected me. But then when certain things happened again and again, it started affecting, it was around either my family, my children, my work, my business. And it's interesting because I'm still in that place of remembering fully who I am in a way that I can actually embody it without fear, because that pattern has happened so many times. And each time it has gotten bigger and more angry and more of a ripple effect out into the different areas of my life. And so, especially in 2020, with COVID and all of that, like so much deep internal reflection and really just questioning, like, who am I really? Because apparently all of these other energies around me think I am just, literally a demon incarnate. Like I got accused of some really bizarre things. And you're absolutely right. Coming back to that truth of no, I I'm just me. I'm just love. And I have this incredible purity in myself. And I've had it since I was a small child. I've had it since before I came into this planet. And every time I've had these experiences that try to break me, or they do break me, I have to choose. Am I going to let this break me and die? and stay gone? Or am I going to let this break me open so that I can feel even more love, so that I can be even more fully alive, and I can express even more who I really am? And that's the path that I've chosen over and over every time this pattern has shown up. It's like I take a moment and have a freak out, go through my dark night, process a whole lot of pain that I would not wish on my worst enemy. I would
Mm-hmm.
never wish this experience on anyone. To feel as if my soul is being broken apart or being ripped out the core and being told that the divine that I am somehow defiles and harms when my intention has always been to love. And I just refuse to believe that story. I believe that others may believe it, but I don't believe it. And there was a time when I really wondered, maybe they're right. And now, because I've had that so many times, it has brought me into that place of like, yeah, I know who the fuck I am. And I will honor that. I will honor myself. I will honor my heart and my purity, because if I don't, who else is going to? Right? It's not going to come from
Mm-hmm.
outside of me. It has to come from inside of me. And I have so much gratitude to every single one of those situations, to all the parts and all the players. So much gratitude, because I would not be who I am today, like you said, without it. Does that mean that it's fun? Oh, hell no. It's not fun. It's not fun.
So
But I
many
have,
people, mhm.
yeah, go ahead.
So many people get caught up in that, in this moment, this really sucks. This is the worst possible thing that could happen. This is the thing of your nightmares. And so many people just sit there, not realizing that that is their opportunity to choose, where do you go from here? That's a moment of creation or a moment of destruction. It's all you. And if you know, take that view for a moment, kind of put pause on your life, step back, step outside of yourself and look at all of the different things that are happening in your life. Realize that this life is a movie and you are the main character of your movie, and you are showing up. And think, like, do you want this to be the most boring, dullest movie in the world, or do you want this to be the greatest story in creation? Because for me, when I look at it, I did spend a lot of time in let's be dull. Let's have a dull movie. Let's not do this. Let's, resist everything. Let's just believe what we're being told and how horrible we are and how this couldn't ever be right and all this. But then one day you realize you hit that brick wall where you're saying, I can't do this anymore. I can't believe what they're saying to me. That couldn't possibly be why I'm here. And the moment that you get to that end point, that I'm done moment, and you can't be close, you got to be there. You got to be there. This is the edge of the cliff. There's no more giving that I can give to someone else to give away my power. And that moment that you say, I'm done. I'm doing this for me. I am taking control. That's when you become the true hero in your life. And it's not about what anyone thinks of you. It's not about what their judgment is or their ideas or how they see who you are and what your life means. It's only about you. And that's when you start to slowly realize how beautifully this has been totally scripted. Like, before you come here on this earth, you have planned out each and every one of these opportunities that when you're looking at them and you're in the hurricane, you're viewing as obstacles. These mountainous, can't possibly overcome challenges. And then you realize you did this and you did this and you did this and you're still here. You made it this far. You can do it again. You can be better because of it. And you realize how fucking badass you are because you showed up for you. You didn't show up for your kids. You didn't show up for your partner or your ex-partner or whatever your details are. You showed up for you. And when you realize that, that's that's when that spark of creation happens. And all of a sudden that threshold's crossed and you are there. Things start falling into place perfectly for you. I remember, so I went through so many years of this divorce process and arguing over like my kids' safety because what was happening with my ex was not acceptable at all. And every single time I couldn't afford a lawyer, so, and I actually fired my first lawyer because she was not cool. Um, she wanted to collaborate with my ex-husband's lawyer, and he was a prosecuting lawyer. That doesn't work. So I lost every single opportunity to make things better for my family for years. I fired her, and then I started doing it myself. And I don't have any training, but I showed up
Hmm.
and I did things wrong. I took the hard way, showing up in court, not knowing what to say, looking like a fool so many times, but I showed up. And it was so interesting because when I finally asked for help, I finally figured out how to get a new lawyer that was amazing. Um, I finally showed up with enough courage to say I needed help. And I remember the first time that she came into my lawyer, the new one, came into the courtroom and she walked in. In every other circumstance, it would be my ex-husband's lawyer and the judge having a communication. I'd be like, what the fuck? I'm here too. But she walked in and she was so confident. Like you could just tell. And she, it was amazing because she walked
Oh.
in, she didn't say hi to anyone. She smiled at me. I was like, "Yeah, you're cool," because I knew who she was going to be. And she said, "Here's how this is going to happen today." And that's exactly what happened. And that was the turning point. And I realized I did that. I brought her there because I said no more. I couldn't afford her, wholly expensive, but she was worth every penny because that changed that moment. And that's when things started falling into place. And that's when I started making that experience have a different outcome. Still not what I expected. Divorce never is like that. It's not what you want, but it's what you need to move forward. And when I saw that someone coming into a room, you could take charge, you could be clear and confident, and then all of a sudden, all these cards fall in the right place. That was so incredibly empowering to see that because it was for that one moment I had someone that backed me, someone that wasn't saying I was crazy,
Mm.
someone that said, no, this is right. And just by seeing that and having that model, I was able to bring that into my life and start taking those steps to move forward, to start clearing the path and creating the destiny that I wanted, not just what someone told me.
Oh, so good. I think that you were at that place of, I can't do this anymore. Like you said, you couldn't afford her, but you couldn't afford not to have her.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the place. That's the breaking open place because you can't keep going the way it's been going, right? And you just decide, I'm done with this, done with this pattern, whatever it is. And it's interesting because thank you for sharing all of that. Like, I can feel the power of that and how that was so life-changing for you. And I have moments like that too. I know exactly what you're talking about. When someone just comes in and they just own all of themselves, and that energy flows out into the environment, and they literally change the frequency of their environment because they are anchored to themselves. And that's what I practice in my own personal path. Like I practice embodying myself, not because I want to manipulate energy or make anything go my way, but because I just have the right to exist, right?
Hmm.
And those that are in resonance with me will be a part of that, and those that aren't, they won't even be able to make it in the door, right? Because
Hmm.
there is no negotiation of the sacredness, the authenticity, and the power that I see in myself now and that I know exists in every single other person. And those that cannot find it in themselves and are not open to do that path of remembering, well, they're not the ones that are going to be drawn in, right? They're the ones that are going to go into fear or
Hmm.
accusation or blaming or victimization or whatever.
And it's so easy to hold attachment to, oh,
Yes.
but they were my best friend, or they
Yeah.
were my partner, or they were this to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to keep that. But
Mm.
all that that's doing when you hold that attachment is just keeping you stuck in that place. When you say, no matter what, I will stay true to myself, that's
Well,
that opportunity to grow
oh,
and to
totally.
be.
It makes me have the understanding that those that bring us the most pain through accusations or whatever it is, they're the ones that actually see how badass we really are and they're afraid of it.
Hmm.
So even in those places where we feel so weak and we feel punched in the gut because somebody said something mean or they did something that was atrocious to us, right? If you look at it from the perspective of that person is coming from fear and they're afraid of me. Whoa. It's like a complete paradigm shift, right?
Absolutely.
Instead of thinking that I'm powerless in this, something's wrong with me. Oh, they're actually showing me the power that's in me that they're afraid of. Maybe I should start to believe that I am powerful, but use that power for good and carve
Hmm.
my own path, right? Oh, it's so good. Oh my gosh.
Hmm. How beautiful that
Oh,
opportunity.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing today. I feel like we could keep going on this for hours. But I know we're coming up on time.
Hmm.
So I feel like we'll probably revisit this rabbit hole. And
Oh, yeah.
I want to go more into how these personal experiences are reflections of the paradigms that we're playing out in society, right?
Hmm.
Like the feminine, the spiritual persecution of the feminine, the burn the witch mentality. Everything that we're sharing ties back into that.
Hmm.
So, so good. Is there anything else you
Beautiful.
would like to share before we close?
I don't think so. That's beautiful. Hmm. Just
Yeah.
remembering in every moment you have the choice. You have the choice to move forward or to stay comfortable. And there's not a wrong choice.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for creating a space where I can share and for trusting
Hmm.
me to share your story too. Like, it's such an honor. And I'm excited for everyone that gets to listen to this because I know it's going to be really powerful. Thank you.